Hello. I know for the past few weeks I've been able to do a skit for this, for the intro. I'm sorry to disappoint this week. I won't say I couldn't think of a good idea. I could think of one good idea. However, the problem is none of my closets have doors. So
it's a Friday once again.
Hello and welcome back, my fellow freaks. I hope you have all had a splendid week. This week's film is actually a viewer and audience suggestion, but more specifically than that, it's not just any viewer. It is recommended to me by my father. So for this past Mother's Day, I reviewed a film that my mom always wanted me to watch that I never had like the time or opportunity to actually finally sit down and watch. And for Father's Day, I kind of had to skip it because of the summer of disturbing cinema, but there is no time like the present to make up Father's Day, and I didn't even have to ask my dad for a recommendation. About 2 weeks ago or so, he gave me a recommendation out of the blue, and I had never heard of this. Well, let me pause there. This film had been recommended to me on like my Tubi home my home screen, and also my Prime home screen, but I never felt very inclined to watch it, and that is House. Not this house. Not I know a bunch of you probably really want me to make a video on this house. I would be very happy to in the future, but that's not, put it away. That's not the house that we're talking about this week. We are talking about House from 1985 and directed by Steve Miner. Again, I was completely unfamiliar with it, and the like synopses that I found online, especially on IMDb, it's so brief that it just sounds like a haunted house story, and it doesn't really give a whole lot of details. Again, I really didn't know anything about it going into it. I did end up watching the trailer before going into it, and I kind of wish I had not done that, because there are quite a few twists in different directions that this film takes that I kind of feel is like so good for you to blind watch it. Like, be genuinely surprised by those moments, because the trailer kind of ruins it.
Keep in mind that I'm saying all of this and I have an entire chapter spoiling exactly the thing that I hated that I got spoiled about, so good job. Good job, me.
And again, I'm sorry I'm not reviewing the I think it's 1977 House. However, funnily enough, both of these House films are centered around an aunt with a haunted house. Aunt. Crucify me, I don't know. But first, if you are new here, hi, my name is STARGUTZZZ. Any kind of crashing or loud noises that you may hear going on in the background, those are my cats. When I was setting up to record, there is a box that has existed in the living room for at least 2 months, and they are starting to play with it like it is like I just brought it into the house. For this episode, for this video especially, I feel like I need to give you the cat warning. But also, my videos tend to be more of a discussion of elements that I find are good or bad about a film, rather than just giving you this play-by-play of every single little thing that happens. So in other words, I try to refrain from spoilers as much as possible. However, they will arise as they pertain to the discussion I want to have with the film. This review will have like one spoiler at the very end, and I will give you the time stamp to be able to skip to that when we get there.
I have no idea how I completely missed to record this part, because I literally say it in every single video. But if you would like to watch House from 1985 before the rest of this review, you can do so on Tubi TV, and not sponsored. We're hoping for it one day, maybe, but the link for that will be in the description, so it's that much easier for you to access whether you want to watch it before the rest of this review or afterwards. It's on quite a few streaming platforms, so if you don't want to use Tubi, I'm pretty sure Prime always has it if you have a Prime subscription. Yeah, okay.
But with all of those pleasantries out of the way, let's go ahead and right into discussing House. Famed horror author Roger Cobb finds his life in shambles as he struggles with the disappearance of his son, a fresh divorce, and frequent Vietnam flashbacks. And to top it off, his publisher is jumping down his neck for a new novel by the end of the month. In the stress of it all, Roger seeks refuge and solace in his childhood home, left to him by his recently deceased aunt. However, Roger's solace is quickly disrupted by the several ghosts, creatures, and nightmares, which force Roger to confront his past. Let me just start off the review by saying this. Roger is so Stephen King coded. I don't care if anyone's mad at me for saying that, but it is the truth. Like most of the story too, so Stephen King coded. And that's not a bad thing. I'm just making an observation. IMDb, I think, does do a good job of just giving you like one or two sentences to summarize this film. Because here's the thing, it is just like your classic normal haunted house flick, but it does have a few like unexpected twists and directions that it goes in that I kind of think are really cool and unique. And damn, I'm so mad that the trailer ruined some of it. Don't watch the trailer before the movie. If this is the first you're really hearing about the film, go into it blind. I want to know if you're surprised by some of the things that happen in it that I thought would be surprising for somebody going in blind. So it does have like a few different little things that make it stand out from your typical haunted house film, but overall, like, yeah, at its core, it's a haunted house movie. Same thing as last week. Person goes into spooky place and spooky things happen. In regards to the narrative, I will admit there are a few moments that feel like detours or side quests that Roger has to complete. But overall, even with this filler content, it's so like creative and fun that I ended up not really minding at all. One of the very first things that I noticed about House is that it's about a haunted house. But not only that, it's a haunted house film that doesn't solely use ghosts. Like, they don't solely use ghosts and specters and spirits. My freaks, we got monsters in the closet. I was so pleasantly surprised by the fact that this is a haunted house film, that it's not just ghosts. They are utilizing like monsters and creatures and ghouls. Ghouls, dude, ghouls.
Ghouls? What? Like in movies and cartoons? What?
Little green ghouls,
buddies?
I feel like it's very common for a haunted house story to just focus on ghosts, and okay, yeah, that makes sense. But I literally cannot think off the top of my head of one horror movie that I've seen that uses monsters or creatures rather than ghosts. Hold your horses in the comments. I'm not saying that it doesn't exist. I'm very positive that it does exist. I'm just unfamiliar with monsters being the antagonist of a haunted house film rather than it being ghosts or some other kind of supernatural presence. I'm not used to it being these are literally ghouls, my guy. We got ghouls in this movie.
Ghouls?
But I'm not saying that these movies don't exist. I'm saying that I'm way more unfamiliar with them, and it feels like anytime that I'm thinking about a haunted house movie, it has to do with ghosts or like demons, right? But these aren't ghosts or demons. These are ghouls. Actually, because I'm less familiar with it, maybe drop your favorite haunted house film that has a monster or a creature in it instead of ghosts. Maybe I can start expanding my horizons, because I really like a haunted house with like a physical creature ghoul entity and not just like specters. Does that make sense? I'm not knocking. I'm not knocking it, but I'm just saying it's refreshing and I like it. And because I like gross ghouls and creations in general anyway, of course I'm gonna like the use of monsters more than ghosts, just a little bit. I like gross stuff. I like gross, ooey gooey, gnarly character designs, and that is definitely what this film has. I personally think that it is just unique and creative that it's a haunted house movie with monsters and ghouls. And the more I think of ghoul, the more I think about how Scooby-Doo is probably a good example of haunted houses with monsters instead of ghosts. But I thought it was really unique that it's using both ghosts and monsters. Like, it's not limited to just one. It feels kind of broad in a way. And I liked that. I found that to be really cool. Not only that, but also the fact that the house is almost treated like its own living entity itself. But I can't get into that just yet. I'll get into that in just a moment. And part of the reason why I love it so much is the monsters designs. Like, they're so gross. Okay, here's the thing. I think it's the same thing as maybe Tusk is what I'm thinking of, where like the characters and their designs, they do look goofy. They definitely look goofy, silly in their own way, but at the same time, they're so gross and gnarly and like disgusting. And I love that. I love the duality of that. I just, yeah. Also the fact that all of these monsters are done with practical effects. If it's not a person in a costume or a suit that's like, by the way, really detailed, then it's like puppetry. I love puppetry so much, dude. In a way, the monster designs in House kind of remind me of Goosebumps. I think it's just the designs themselves, like they aren't exactly horrifying to look at. They're definitely very exaggerated and as I said, gross. I'm sure I've probably shown some already in the video. But these designs and some of the more light-hearted and comedic moments that House has, I think those are the two elements that really kind of spark up some memory of Goosebumps. The monsters especially, I don't know why. All the monsters, to me at least, seem like Goosebumps monsters, but I love it. And as I already touched on, the costumes for the monsters, they're very detailed. They're very detailed, they're very well done, and it's not just that some of the monsters are puppets that are controlled, but they have the thing going on with the articulated faces. I don't know what this is called. I don't know what the technical term for it is. I don't even know how to word it to try and Google what it is, but I'm pretty sure it's the thing. I'm pretty sure Jim Henson, if he didn't create it, he was part of the process that created this, which is like having a puppeted costume that you could control from afar, and like you have all these gears and gadgets to be able to like control the face to puppet it, and then like it's just an actor in a suit. They did it with Fraggle Rock, and I do believe they did it with like Dark Crystal. We get that in House. We get people in costumes with really well articulated like costume faces, just like you would see in a Jim Henson like production. I wonder if the Henson company had anything to do with this, although I kind of doubt it because I didn't see any kind of credit. I was just excited that this film has it because I think it adds a whole lot to the monsters, especially the female monster. And then also there's a character at the end who has a really well done articulated face. I'll discuss a little bit more on that later, but it is going to be within the spoiler section. But just know, I'm a big sucker for practical effects, and especially if the practical effects include puppetry and stop motion. Are you kidding me? I'm foaming at the mouth. I know sometimes I'll note a horror movie as being like very perfectly spooky, or maybe classically spooky, or maybe I'll call it like a perfect Halloween flick. It's something that just feels simple yet classic, and it gets you in the mood for the Halloween season. House is one of those films. Forget everything that I said about Cinderella's Curse. Actually, throw Cinderella's Curse in the garbage. Actually, no, don't do that because Daniel Scott, oh my god. You don't have to throw it in the trash, but if you had to choose one new film to watch as like a very perfectly spooky Halloween season film, I would probably recommend House over Cinderella's Curse. In fact, it's so perfectly a Halloween flick that I wouldn't be surprised that this is somebody's comfort movie. If one of you in the comments tells me like, hey, actually, yeah, I would consider House one of my comfort movies. I love this film. And you're right, it is classically spooky. All I'd have to say to you is absolutely valid choice. Mine is Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Now, spooky is just the vibe. You should not go into this film expecting to be scared. However, you should go into House expecting to have a very cozy Halloween-y evening. And I think it's a good vibe for the whole family. I think the whole family can enjoy this movie together. The whole family? But isn't this rated R? Yeah, it is rated R. I don't know why. I genuinely don't know why this film is rated R. There's no nudity. There's no gore. I feel like I didn't even hear a whole lot of swearing happening. Even though the parental guide on IMDb, somebody literally counted all the swear words that they say. Maybe it's because I'm an adult and I use these words, I don't notice them. But I swear to you, I watched this 3 times, I didn't notice any swearing. But apparently it's there. I don't know. Also, somebody else gave it a 6 out of, said that the blood and gore rating, they would give it a 6 out of 10. Huh? This is an episode of Goosebumps. I genuinely only remember a single instance where there was blood on the screen. And it's after somebody gets shot, and it's no worse than you would see from some kind of like cop show or cop movie of somebody getting shot. Like, it's such a minimal amount of blood, and I keep replaying it in my head, and I'm just like, where did they see all the blood at? That was the only moment that I remember seeing blood. Now, maybe somebody could argue that the scary imagery, it was the 80s. In the 80s, this is like nothing for kids, right? Kids content itself had very scary imagery and very like disturbing stuff happening. I would guarantee you that any 80s kid who likes scary stuff is not going to be bothered by this. They're going to think this film is weak. They're gonna call this pussy shit. Oh, but there's a scene of an old woman hanging. Okay. I don't think that would have given it an R rating. You know why? Beetlejuice came out 3 years later in 1988. There were several moments where there were characters hanging by their necks in that film. PG rating. I would put House on like the same level as Beetlejuice. I would give it a PG rating. In my opinion, there's no reason for this to be rated R. There's nothing R-rated happening in this. There's hardly even blood. The most somebody could argue for is the scary imagery. And even then, 80s kids were tough, man. They could handle this. I think a kid now can handle it. If your kid likes Goosebumps, this movie. There's nothing R-rated happening in this. I'm so confused. Why is this not PG? I would consider this a PG film. So anyway, that's my little rant on that, but also because one day I might be a parent, and I don't know how many of you in the audience are parents yourselves who might have kids that like scary content. And so if I think something would probably be appropriate for a kid, I'm gonna mention it. And House 1000% is like a family-friendly Halloween horror movie. There's hardly even blood. The only blood, I swear to you, the only blood we see is from that person getting shot. Like, anyway, I need to move on. To add to this whole cozy Halloween feeling that House has, how many of you read House of Leaves? Obviously, House of Leaves was published way after this movie. However, I do want to note some of the things in this film that reminded me of House of Leaves. Because if you really like the book House of Leaves, I think there is a big likelihood that you could watch this film and also really like this film. I think especially at the final 30 minutes when things start to get a little more surreal or weird. I mean, there's some surreal, weird moments throughout, but the last 30 minutes especially are very surreal and weird with the house's logic. And those moments are just, they just feel very reminiscent of House of Leaves. I think especially my favorite part is there's a moment where the main character Roger has to go into the bathroom mirror, and the environment and world that he's in within the bathroom mirror, it reminds me of the way that House of Leaves ends with the void and like what the staircase and stuff. It's been a while since I read it, but I remember like the big void and staircase and maybe a maze or something. I can't remember. Not only that, but House is also playing with the idea that the house itself is a living entity, kind of the way House of Leaves does. Like they play with and imply this idea that this haunted house, it's not haunted per se, but it's alive. And God, do I love that. God, do I love it when a horror movie that is like haunted housey explores the idea that the house itself is alive rather than it being just like haunted by dead people. I just think that's so cool. I think it's so neat because especially when you take into like consideration of some people's beliefs of there being house spirits and taking care of your house spirits, like the house is a living thing. I feel like when I read House of Leaves, by the way, it was in a college class, and I feel like we did have a big discussion on the like metaphors that we could take from a house literally being alive. But it was so long ago, I can't remember, and all my notes are in storage. So I'm sorry. You get this half-assed idea, this half-assed explanation, or I don't know. I just want to share the fact that I like that the house is alive. That's it. I mentioned in the synopsis that Roger is someone who is a Vietnam veteran, and throughout the film he has Vietnam flashbacks. But I haven't really expressed any kind of significance that this has had yet. There are several flashbacks. There are at least like 3 or 4 that happen throughout the story that I can think of. And on my first watch, I'm gonna be honest, I wasn't digging it. I didn't understand the whole tie-in with it with the rest of the movie, and I just didn't like it. I was just like, okay, question mark. However, on my second watch is when I really started to appreciate the whole Vietnam narrative happening. See, this is why if I'm gonna review something, I have to watch it at least twice, because now that I'm familiar with it and what's going on, I can actually pay attention just a little bit more than maybe on my first watch, because I already know what's happening, so I can look for other little things. And that's definitely what happened with this house. On my second watch, not only did I understand the tie-in of all the Vietnam stuff a little bit better, but I found it to be like a really cool and unique direction that this horror film, this haunted house horror film, is taking. Like, because if you think about it, having to experience flashbacks and then also a haunted house, I mean, that's kind of fucked up. My favorite part of the Vietnam stuff especially is Ben. Now, this section is going to be covering like the last 30 minutes of the film. So this is your spoiler warning. I have some timestamps up here. This is also going to be the section where I'm going to discuss how the film ends because I need to throw it in somewhere, and it kind of has to do with Ben. So I'm actually going to have two timestamps up here probably, which one of them, if you want to remain completely spoiler free, you can either go to this timestamp or just go ahead and skip to the conclusion chapter where I'll be sharing like my overall final thoughts and everything, and also giving it the tier. But the second timestamp is if you don't want to hear this discussion about Ben but are really curious about how the movie ends, because wow, I have to share it. Timestamps. So that's your warning. 3, 2, 1, spoilers. In the final 30 minutes, Roger has to confront the ghost or zombie of a friend he was in Nam with, who he left to be captured by the Vietnam soldiers. And his name is Big Ben. And all of the stuff between Roger and Ben, we get through the flashbacks leading up to what happens to Ben, and then the finale of the film, the final 30 minutes. And before I go into what I mainly want to discuss with Ben, I do want to include really fast how much I fucking love his character design.
Roger, you hit like a little girl.
Like, I know I already talked about like the monsters and creatures and ghouls in general already, but I feel like I need to discuss Ben separately. Probably one of the coolest zombie designs I've ever seen. Now, in a way, yeah, it's kind of generic zombie, but at the same time, I love how detailed it is. Like how detailed his face is and how gross and decayed he looks, and his uniform with the, I think his skeletal chest is exposed. I think it's so cool. And Ben is another one of those characters that has the articulated face, and it's like the best one in the movie. I didn't notice it until like I started to notice how expressive his eyebrows were, and the movement of it, I was just like, there's no way it's like the actor himself moving the prosthetics. It's moving the way that like a Jim Henson puppet would. And oh god, it's just, he's so cool. I love how expressive his face is able to get through the articulated like mask puppetry, whatever. I don't know, what's it called? I don't know. Tell me in the comments. Know it all. So I just want to highlight that just really quick first, because I love Ben. I love his design. He's so cool. Moving on. Now, I am sure that the film's intentions is that this is literally Ben's spirit or being or whatever, because it seems like the house itself is connected to some kind of like weird dead realm. So I'm sure the film's intentions is that, yeah, this is literally Ben seeking out his revenge. However, y'all mind if a white girl shares a fun little theory really quick? I just mentioned how there are some implications that the house itself in this film is a living entity. So what if Ben, or Zombie Ben, is just the manifestation of the house trying to mess with Roger? Because up before we meet Zombie Ben, the house has already shown and proven to us that it can materialize a being that is so real you can physically touch it, even though that's not the person who it actually is. We see it happen twice with the ex-wife. Twice with the ex-wife is the house able to like physically conjure her to where Roger can actually touch her and everything, even though it's not really her and it's another creature. Now, granted, maybe this is the power of the creature who is impersonating her. I prefer to think that it is the house itself. And why is that? Well, because in the beginning, the aunt tells not only us, she's telling Roger, but inadvertently, she is also telling the audience how the house was able to trick her into, what's a YouTube friendly way to put it? The house tricked her into. So if the house can really seriously just manifest these ghouls and physical beings and pretend to be somebody that the resident there knows, not only is it fucked up and actually scary that it can do that, but then I don't think it is really that much of a reach to say that Zombie Bin is also a manifestation of the house with the like intended purpose of getting Roger to I mean, does that make sense? We get the proof that the house is able to do this, and then the aunt tells us that the house tricked her.
It won, Roger. It tricked me. I didn't think it could, but it did. It's going to trick you too, Roger. This house knows everything about you. Leave while you can.
I really don't think it's that much of a reach to say that the house knows about Roger's Vietnam past and what happened to his friend, and then use that against him to not only scare him and mess with him, but also try and convince him to do the same thing that his aunt did. And you know what? That's another point where, like, yeah, the film's intended purpose is probably that this has actually been here for revenge. But at the same time, we know the house is trying to trick people into kicking the bucket. And then at the very last moment of the film, Big Ben is giving Roger these threats over, like, if you don't kick the bucket, or if you like don't kick your own bucket, then I'm gonna kill your son. And that to me sounds like the house speaking, because the house is wanting people to do that. And also, why would Ben not just want to, you know, off him himself? Oh, that's right, because the house doesn't have the power to do that. That's why it has to drive people crazy until they do it themselves. Wow, this movie actually has a lot more like cool horror movie shit going on than it really seems to be, because it's so like lighthearted and comedic. But when you sit here and you think about like the logistics of the house and the rules of the house and what the house is doing, that's actually kind of really scary. And this brings us to our final 2 minutes of the film. How the movie actually ends. First of all, this film ends so abruptly. Like, it's so abrupt. It's almost like we're tired of writing and don't want to figure out another ending, so this is how we're gonna end it because I'm tired. My initial thoughts, how I thought the film was going to end, was that all of these events that have taken place over the course of the film, by the end of it, once everything's resolved, Roger was gonna be like, my idea for a new novel, so I can continue making money. I thought everything that happened was going to end up being Roger's book. But oh no. Oh no. It is so much worse and yet better than that. When Roger uttered these words, I think I yelled. I know I had a visceral reaction. I immediately paused the film and I said, there's no way this is how the film is going to end. And what are those words that Roger uttered? He said, I'm not afraid of you anymore.
I'm not afraid of you anymore, Ben.
I'm not afraid!
I'm not scared anymore. Come on, come get some.
Come get me.
I'm not afraid of you anymore!
Get out of here. Don't come back. I'm not scared of you.
It's so abrupt, and it really gives the idea that like they were just tired of writing the script and they just wanted it to end, so they were just like, you know what? I'm not afraid of you anymore. And now I win. And it's the final 2 minutes of the film.
I'm not scared of you anymore.
All I can think about is Psychic Pebble's voice and like Oni Plays. Whenever I hear that line of dialogue, all I think about is Oni Plays. And the fact that this film just seriously ended by Roger going, hey, I'm not afraid of you anymore. Oh my god. It's so hilarious. It's honestly hilarious. I think mostly just because of the association I have with the string of dialogue. What a hilarious abrupt ending. And it's kind of a bullshit ending too, because like as soon as he says that, the movie's done after 2 minutes. Like that's literally it. He says that and they win and it's done. If you think I'm joking, go watch the movie. But even though this is such a bullshit cop out ending for the film, it gets a pass because it's so funny. Overall, I think I just found House to be like a very nice, classic, simple, spooky film. It has a good story, it has good actors, it has really great practical effects, and there's not really anything negative that I have to say about it. Maybe like 1 or 2 things where if you really sit there and think about it, you're like, I don't know. But I mean, nothing that's a huge deal, nothing that's going to impact your watch of this. And like I said, I wouldn't even be surprised if this was somebody's comfort movie. I think this movie is very cozy, very comforting, and again, family friendly. I don't know why it's rated R. Why is this film rated? There's no nudity. Like, the only piece of blood is somebody being shot, at least that I remember. Apparently there's swearing in it, but I really hardly even remember. Apparently there were like 4 or 5 instances of fuck that the person counted. I feel like I didn't hear it once. Again, I think this is a very perfectly acceptable family horror movie during the Halloween time, and it's definitely going to get you into like the spooky season. You could watch this in February. If you're in the mood for just something like nice and comforting, cozy and spooky, even it doesn't have to be around Halloween. If you just want the spooky feeling, I really recommend House. And also thank you to my father for recommending this to me. I really enjoyed it. Thank you so much. But he recommended it to me, so I kind of figured I was going to like it. Me and my dad have somewhat similar taste in films, so I kind of figured it was going to be a banger. And for that, House, 1985, 1977 also, if I'm being honest, probably gets the same tier. But for that reason, House from 1985 it's getting the A tier. I mean, like, there's really nothing I can pick at it for, and the more I watch it, the more I like it. Like, even the first watch, I was already like, okay, this might be an A tier, and then the other watches, I was like, this is definitely an A tier. This is such, like, a nice, simple, spooky little film. If you just want something nice, simple, easy to get you ready for the spooky season, 10 out of 10 recommend House. And with that, we are done with yet another movie review. Thank you guys so much if you stuck around all the way until the very end. If you like this video, please make sure that you stab that like button. It is a free and easy way to help support this channel, and I appreciate it so much. Also, I know I told you guys to recommend me some haunted house films that have ghouls in it, like monsters instead of ghosts. But if there is another film that you would like to see me cover eventually, I have such a huge list. I should really stop asking for recommendations, but I can't. I'm a hoarder. I can't help myself. If there is a film that you would like me to see and eventually review on the channel, please drop it in the comments below and maybe you might see it show up. And then if you just like this video so much that you want to hear me ramble about more obscure movies, B-movies, disturbing cinema, or just like this one, pretty generic horror movie, like mainstream horror movie. And it is obviously like a Hollywood production. Anyway, if you would like to see me just ramble about films in general, because I actually kind of have one fantasy film in mind later. Fantasy is like my second favorite genre. I'm digressing. If you would like to see me ramble more, please consider hitting that subscribe button and also the bell icon so that you can be notified every time I make a new upload. And new uploads tend to be every Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. On the screen as well are some of my socials if you feel so prone to follow me on there. I don't really post a lot, but hey, maybe you're interested. And just one final thank you so much for being here and using your time to watch this video. Our time is precious, and when you think about it, we really don't have a whole lot of it. So the fact that you have used your time to sit here and watch me just ramble about this movie, thank you. I really appreciate it. I appreciate you being here, your presence, you using your time to watch this video. Just a very sincere thank you. If I do not see you guys in any posts or anything, then I will catch you in the next video. But until then, please have a good night and stay safe out there.
What you doing?
Me? Nothing.